Hi everybody, welcome inside the locker room out here at Robbie Stadium, joined by, I guess I can say it, former Warriors head football coach Dennis Miller. Coach, thanks for giving us some time.
Look forward to it. This is one of my favorite places to be.
Well, let's talk about this decision now, a week or two old, that you made to the campus community that you'd be stepping down as Warriors head football coach after 13 seasons. I guess just take us into the decision that you and your family certainly made behind this call.
Well, I've been asked by a lot of people, of course, because I think it came as somewhat of a shock to quite a few folks. But my answer has been it's the right time, and basically what I mean by that is the program is very healthy. We have a great group of players. The future looks very bright. We've got an outstanding coaching staff. Coach Murphy has now taken over as the head coach, and it's just the right time. The school's experiencing a lot of growth, and with the two positions that I've held over the last number of years, the student affairs area and then the head football coach, it just seemed like if there was going to be a stopping off point, this was a great time to do it.
Now you and your wife Kathy, and I'm sure BJ and Whitney and your son and daughter, in making this decision, you had actually thought this out before the season, as I understand it. So it was in your mind kind of as the 2012 campaign rolled forward.
Yeah, it was. It was an important decision to give a lot of time to think about and to contemplate, and then basically get comfortable with the idea of actually pulling the trigger on it and going forward. So Kathy and I talked a lot about it, and finally came to the resolution that this is a good time to do it, and that's how the season progressed, and I kind of knew as everything was going along, this is the last, whatever it happened to be, the last homecoming, the last whatever. And I think what it allowed me to do is really focus on the year and focus on the joy of coaching and the fun things that I get out of it, and certainly that football gave to me and my family.
When you look back on 2012, was there a moment, maybe it was the season finale up in Mequon against Concordia, Wisconsin, was there a moment where you kind of just stepped back and took it all in one last time, or was it just a matter of little snapshots along the way?
Yeah, I think certainly at the end of the Concordia game, at the end of the year this year, that was certainly a moment where a lot was running through my mind, because it's I've been doing this a long time, and so I knew that was coming to an end. So I definitely focused on that at that point in time. But I think I've told the players for as long as I've coached, I've had a phrase that a lot of the guys will remember, which is drink it in. Just drink it in. In other words, absorb everything that goes into being part of football and part of the fabric of football. And I think I used my advice, and I drank it in all year. I just felt I really enjoyed pretty much everything that happened this season. It was a great preseason. We had a great group of guys. Got off to an excellent start, and I think I really truly took the time to pay attention to everything.
Would you be willing to share with us at all a little bit maybe of what you shared with your team when you addressed them for the last time?
Well, the very last time when I told them I was retiring, that was a very emotional time. It came as a shock. I think they came into the facility expecting to be handed out their weight programs for the off season, and as we do every off season. So the departure from that to a pretty big announcement, I think that was a shock. But basically, what I shared with them is that this has never been a job; it's been a joy. It's been something that I've loved doing, and frankly could see myself being a John Gallardi and go until 86. But now was the right time, and so we just had a few moments where we just kind of came to grips with that whole thing, and then gave me the opportunity to introduce Coach Murph as the new head guy, and it was a nice transition, and now we're moving on.
Now we're going to get to and talk a little bit about Coach Murphy taking over for you. From the outside looking in, I think I talked with a lot of fans, a lot of followers of the program. who, when they got the news, were certainly shocked, very surprised, especially because you come off a program record 7-3 season, certainly the program now championship caliber for the last few years. How would you address that of fans saying,
Timing.
Coach, the timing, you're so close, you're right there for a championship. Why not wait to get to that championship, pull down that trophy, and then kind of ride off into the sunset?
Well, you know what, I would have preferred to do that this year. You know, and I feel like we were right there. We had that opportunity. But the bottom line again, and again, focusing back on that, this is the right time. The program is exactly where it needs to be to take that next step. And, you know, you've been along for the ride from the very moment we started this thing. There have been a lot of hurdles to get over to get to the point where I could say, we're here. We have kind of, in some ways, arrived. We are as legitimate as you're going to get in D3 football right now. And so, granted, it makes a lot of sense. You went through those tough years. Why not stay on and enjoy the fruits of your labor a little bit? But I am truly going to enjoy the fruits of the labor by seeing how it continues to develop. We have scratched the surface on how good I think we can be, and it just is the right time to make that decision.
You started reflecting there on all the hurdles along the way, so let's just spend a couple of moments talking about that. We had brought out right before we started taping the 2000 media guide. I guess you could call it a media guide. It was put together
Thin,
very thin compared to what it is now. And you were looking through this one. 44 guys on that first roster on the back. Everybody was. There was enough room to stand everybody along the stairway behind the recreation complex. And this is a tough question, I realize, considering the time constraints. Can you put some perspective on 2,044 guys to 2012 and over 100 guys?
Oh boy. Well, first of all, those 44 guys are truly the pioneers and the foundation of the program. I am amazed as I look backward now that we were able to find quality human beings and football players that wanted to buy into an idea, into a dream. And the fact that those 44 decided, I want to be a part of this whole thing, is really what allows us to sit in this room right now and have this conversation. So the contrast from then to now is startling. I mean, you know, we were nomads. We didn't have a field. We didn't have a practice field. We didn't have locker rooms. We didn't have anything. And now we've got a beautiful stadium and a beautiful locker room and over 100 players on the team. So the contrast in that regard is startling. But the essence of the program, I think, started back then, because those are the same type of players that we have right now. Kids that are committed to having a different college experience, a Christ-centered football program that hasn't cut corners in that regard, that has kept that front and center. And I really, there's no question in my mind that that's what has allowed us to grow and get to the position we're at now.
I'm going to ask here if you can point out maybe a game or two or three that stand out in your 13 years here at Wisconsin Lutheran. Anything that pops to the kind of the top of the list right off the gates?
Yeah, you know, there's a few, and it's like saying who is the best player at you feel bad if you're missing a game that in somebody else's mind was a key game. But let's start at the beginning. The first game against Rockford was just a great experience. I mean, here we are, freshmen and sophomores, small roster going against another first-year startup football program. It was an ideal way to start this whole program out. And then we go down to Rockford, and the first touchdown we score is on a deflected pass that somebody that's not supposed to catches it and goes in for a touchdown. I mean, what an appropriate way to start a football program. And we went on to win that game, 14-0, and I think that's what the score was. And that's one that stands out. And then I think there were, the Hope game from just a couple of years ago here. I mean, you talked about a nemesis that, and the thing about the Hope game is that we played them long enough that we played them over there a number of years earlier, And they had 145 guys running out in their orange uniforms, and it was like they were never going to stop on their sideline, and we had our 45 guys over on the other side, and we battled, but we ended up losing, and it seemed at that point we were a long ways away from ever competing. Well, then to beat them at home was kind of like an affirmation that we have really started to come where we need to get to. And then I think another game that just stands out was when we played Adrian College in one of our tough years. I mean, I think we only won like 2 games that year. And Ryan Elbrecht, and I love him to death, is not a kicker. And he was our kicker. And he came out and he needed to kick a long field goal. And again, the records will tell what it is. I think it was 44, 46,
40 plus, for sure.
40 plus yard field goal. And he kicked the ball, and I swear the movement on that ball was 8 feet. It was nowhere close, and all of a sudden it came in, and it was a win. And you would have thought we won the Super Bowl based on the reaction, and it was only a 2-win season. But we had a lot of good things going at that point in time, and that stands out as a real highlight.
Obviously, I think off the field, well, I guess in some respects still on the field, but off the field, insofar as it's not a game, is the way this program developed the facilities. I mean, I think at this point here, finally playing in this great facility like Robbie Stadium, you will have coached, I think, at 4 or 5 different home fields for at least one game. But speak to the facility journey. I mean, whether it was Greenfield Park in year 1, or now Robbie Stadium and this beautiful locker room in which we sit now. I mean, that, whenever you write your book, Coach, that is at least a chapter or 2 in and of itself.
It surely is. This year, in fact, with our current team, we started what we call a history tour. And we took the players, and the cool thing was we had to divide our team up into thirds because it's too big to get on a bus, so we divided up into 3 different groups. And we took them on a tour of what our history has been. And so we started out at Rainbow Park, out at the outfield of a softball field, and that's where we practiced. And so we kind of walked through that and explained how that used to work and how we would run into the warming house if we got rain. And just when it got late in the year and there were no lights on, the bus would turn their lights on and we'd practice. I mean, there was just that's a part of our history. And then we played our game down at Valley Field. When it had the old AstroTurf on, which was like playing on concrete, but it was a field nonetheless. And we constructed a press box that, man, I've seen most tree houses that are much better than that press box was, and plus it was 12 feet above the ground.
I was on top of that press box. I know.
I mean, but it was nice because it was ours,
Yeah.
and we were playing in it. And then that moved obviously to Robbie Stadium and the turf field, and then for a long time we played out here, practiced, had porta-johns, and we had tents to go into, and now we sit in this great facility here, basically 13 years later.
How were you able to recruit when you didn't have all of this that's around us right now? I mean, what lengths did you have to go to convince those kids that WLC and Warriors football was the best move for them?
Well, and I think, first of all, it was challenging, but what really became of that was the players that finally selected us and said, I want to be at your place, did it for all the right reasons. They did it because they fit into our culture. They did it because they were looking for a Christian atmosphere that they were going to thrive in. They did it because I think they were attracted to the way we coached them and the styles that we were doing and that sort of thing. So I really think, even though it was hard, it was a really quality way to weed out those that really we wanted and they wanted us, as opposed to kids that just choose schools for a variety of reasons.
As you look ahead, what do you foresee? And we'll ask you about Coach Murphy in just a moment, but from a program as a whole, what do you foresee? You've been around this game a long time. You can kind of look down the road a little bit and see where this thing is headed. Yeah,
and I'm not trying to put any undue pressure on Murph and Foss and all the rest of them, but I foresee great things for this program. I mean, we're right where we want to be. We'll go into next season as one of the favorites for sure. and a deserved favorite in my opinion. And I really feel like the ball is rolling in such a way that if we just keep this thing going, that I think there's all kinds of potential here. I mean, I see us as a conference champion, I see us as a playoff team, and I see us as a successful playoff team.
All right, I'll give you that opportunity now. The decision to promote defensive coordinator and former Warrior, who knows all about the tradition, Ben Murphy certainly played a role, and then obviously with Mike Fossum, who was in this same media guide back in 2000 and has been part of this every step of the way. But the decision then to have Murph take over the head coaching reins, can you speak to that?
Yeah, well, he's just, again, I want to make sure we focus on the fact that one of the strengths of our program over the years is our coaching staff continuity. We just have not turned over a lot of coaches, and that's been one of the really great blessings of this program. And consequently, I had a couple of guys in Mike Fossum and Ben Murphy that have been a part of our program for virtually the entire way. Mike from '99 to the present, and Murph came on board as a player in 2001 and interned with us and GA'd out at Northern State, my old school, and then came back here. And really it was, the selection of Murph just made sense on so many fronts. Number one, Coach Foss absolutely loves the role that he is in right now and excels at it at such a tremendously high level. And he is happy and excited about the direction that the program is going and looks forward to the future. Coach Murph has been preparing kind of mentally to be a head coach for a long time. That's the role that he has really wanted to do. And I say a long time, you kind of have to smile considering he's only 29 years. It's not that long. I've coached a lot longer than he's been alive. But nonetheless, he's been preparing for this and working on the skills necessary to be a successful head coach. So it was just a great transition that I think everybody within my program is really happy about.
You personally, looking ahead, and we talked about this when we sat down last week, Coach. 13 years here, 12 at Northern State, so that's 25 as a head coach. 9 or 10 as an assistant before that. You were a college player before that. You were a high school player before that. I suppose you have to go back to, what, 5th or 6th grade, the last fall. You weren't getting ready for a football season. Have you decided what you're going to do when August rolls around and the guys are reporting to camp?
Yeah, well, I do know what I'm going to do this fall. I'm going to go on a motorcycle trip and just get out of town for a while. Both because I enjoy motorcycling and two, because I want to get out of town when camp starts. It's going to be a hard transition. I would be completely disingenuous if I didn't acknowledge that, I think next fall it's going to be hard for me not coaching. But frankly, I believe guys that are coaches, and I consider myself a coach and will be until the day I die probably. I don't think that feeling ever goes away. It's different than other jobs. It kind of gets in you. It's an emotional thing, and I think that'll always be there. But I'm looking forward to coming to the games and being with my grandson and sitting with my family and watching the game. I have no idea how I'll be as a fan. I have no idea. My guess is I'm going to work very hard to just shut up and not say a word and completely enjoy it. And every phone call they have, go, good, it's not mine this time.
Well, we'll certainly catch up with you again, Coach, down the road, and certainly see you out at Robbie Stadium at the ball games again this season. I guess on behalf of a lot of people that are going to see this video, a lot of the fans that have come out, whether it was Robbie Stadium or Wisco or wherever, Valley Field, wherever you played a home game, who haven't reached out to you yet or who won't get a chance to, thank you for what you did for Wisconsin Lutheran College and for a lot of young men through 13 years here and 25 as a head coach.
Well, thank you. It's been my joy. Thank you.
Former Warriors football head coach Dennis Miller, I'm Scott Warris. Thanks for joining us here on WLCSports.com.